We made history when we scaled this medical equipment brand with Google Ads to $155,000 across a 60-day period. A brand in a restricted gray area niche, which wasn't even supposed to run on Google. And as you see right here, this increase in Google Ads results led to basically doubling their business overall as a whole. As we can see here, from a period of June 30th, 2026 to July 29th of 2026, on a 30-day basis, we're looking at the BigCommerce backend because the brand is run on BigCommerce. We can see a total of $297,000 in revenue, whereas last month at this exact point of time, the brand had done almost half less, $149,000 in total. And we made it happen through a very effective strategy, through basically approaching Google not as a single individual platform, but rather a small part of an ecosystem. And this level by level approach, which there are 4 levels to this entire approach, is essentially how we approach any medical related brand when it comes to Google Ads, not only to get it approved via the Merchant Center, but also to scale long term. Now, just for context, this brand does sell medical equipment that's more on the higher ticket range. As we can see, 3-wheel scooters for adults, for example, this is one of the main collection this brand sells. Another product that the brand usually sells is something like a motorized wheelchair, anything that is high ticket in nature, which is why the overall average order value here, as we can see, is roughly $327, with some campaigns going all the way up to almost $920, so even $1,000 in some periods of the year. And the craziest thing we did with this brand about 3 months ago when they came to us was starting off with level number 1, which is the foundational layer. Most brands completely disregard this, especially in the medical industry. But from my experience working with not only this brand, but brands in niches like liquor, like healthcare, skincare, medical equipment, what I've come to realize is that any brand in a gray area industry must follow this checklist, which we have laid out. And the checklist is starting off with bold claims on landing pages, because this brand does sell specific types of high-end equipment for the medical industry. What that also means is naturally there's going to be some bold claims made within the landing pages, and this is one of the telltale signs that the brand will not be able to run on Google Ads, because Google hates bold claims. That's the first thing we check. Second thing we check is financing options, especially in high-ticket brands like these. Having something like monthly payment options available directly on the landing pages is absolutely crucial, because this makes it so users are not only more inclined to trust the brand because it doesn't want them to pay thousands of dollars upfront, but at the same time, it gives people a bit more of a lenient approach as to purchasing something without having to worry about payments. Third thing we're trying to check with any medical related brand or any brand in the gray area niche is essentially trust badges. For example, this is not the exact brand we work with, this is a competitor, but essentially having something here like along the lines of price match guarantee or #1 rated medical brand, etc. Things like these, which add a lot of trust, add a lot of security to the overall interactions that get done on the landing page itself. This should be followed by visuals and website accessibility, for example, along with on-point branding. And when I say visuals, I don't just mean having different product images. This is something basic that every brand out there in an industry like this implements. I'm talking things like videos, somebody showcasing the product live, somebody recording the product in action, in motion, because in high-ticket brands like these, or for example, any gray area niche, it's super crucial to understand how the product is in real life, how it gets used, what the authority is behind that product, the branding, etc. Because the higher the perceived value of your landing page and the videos and visuals you have, the more you'll be able to sell and bypass Google's strict policies when it comes to these gray area niches. And of course, having on-point branding, which essentially means just having the right colors that users are looking for, making the website accessible. For example, in a situation like this where we're selling medical equipment for people who are maybe older, maybe have more money to spend, 40s, 50, 60-year-olds, that means the website must be as simple to navigate as humanly possible. You cannot be adding in a lot of bells and whistles to a brand that serves an older demographic audience. This entire checklist essentially lets you lay out a perfect foundation, which is the bare minimum any brand should have in place for Google Ads to work as a small part of an entire ecosystem. Because when you layer this level along with level number 2, which is the perfect Google Ads layer, that's when you really start to gain some momentum, some action overall. Now, if we look at all of the campaigns we had running during this time period, we can see that on a weekly basis, we had some tremendous growth from when we began work early about 90 days ago to now during the last 1 to 1.5 months. And that's purely because we were able to understand 2 major things for this brand. Number 1, where does Google even place this brand on the keyword search list? And number two, the different types of buying intents based on keyword search volume. So for reference, if we go on over to the keyword planner tool and let's take this brand into account to make this happen. Essentially, what we're always trying to do when we approach Google Ads for any brand out there, which by the way, if you run a brand making over $50,000 a month in revenue and you would rather get some extra help scaling profitably and consistently with Google Ads to the next level, scan the QR code on the screen or click the first link in the description below to directly schedule a call with my team and get a completely free Google Ads audit where we'll find all the problems preventing your brand from scaling, potential solutions, and most important of all, how we can work together long term to make all of this happen. But essentially, what we're trying to understand with medical equipment brand or anything else is essentially going to the keyword planner tool and starting the keyword search with the website itself, not a specific keyword, because what we're trying to understand is the answer to question number one. What does Google even think we're all about? And this will let you know exactly where you stand in the overall marketplace. So for example, when we looked at this brand right here, we could see that this brand sells scooters, power wheelchairs, recliners, wheelchairs, beds, so on and so forth, a variety of different collections in the medical industry. But when we did that search on Google, what we see is that majority of the searches are getting done for things like the Hoyer lift, the motorized wheelchairs, the lift chairs, and essentially just wheelchairs in general, along with some mobility scooters and so on and so forth. So what that tells me already is a lot of the other collections that this brand sells, like recliners, for example, beds, the vehicle lifts, essentially, number one, they don't have enough search volume, or number two, they don't have enough demand generated or authority built around these collections for Google to even send a large amount of traffic from keywords getting searched within these collections to this website. That means that this is our winning kind of collection, which we need to first focus on to bring more sales from before we consider expanding to the other segments. Once we have a general idea of these things, then we can move on to more of the different types of buying intent keywords based on the search volume. So for instance, motorized wheelchair. The difference between a good keyword and a bad keyword in an industry like this is essentially the buying intent behind this. For example, if somebody taps in the keyword wheelchair, what would you say is the overall search demand or the buying intent of an individual that searches this up? In my opinion, if you ask me, I would say this is a medium buying intent or even a low buying intent individual, somebody I want to avoid, simply because even though they're searching up for a product which we sell, the overall intent is very low. This tells me this person doesn't even know what kind of wheelchair they want, and they have a very, very minute idea about this. Even a keyword like this, which is a bit more practical, like wheelchair for old people. Again, way too generic, way too bland and boring, does not specifically identify what they're trying to achieve. And this, to me, is a bad keyword and something we try to avoid in any industry we work with. What, on the other hand, we're trying to go after is the high buying intent keywords. For example, a high buying intent keyword in this situation would be something like 3-wheel electric wheelchair for seniors, for example. This is much more higher intent because number one, it's showcasing exactly what kind of electric scooter we're looking for. We're not looking for a kid's electric scooter. We're looking for something that has 3 wheels. And number two, we're looking for something that's suitable for seniors. So we have identified the age bracket as well as the type of wheelchair we're trying to go after. This is what I classify high buying intent keyword. And this is essentially what we're trying to build our entire strategy from the overall foundation, from the product titles, to the landing page experience based around. And in this industry, actually, after running ads for so long, what we came to realize is the best approach here is essentially even taking things a bit further and going after keywords that have a specific brand name in front of that. So for example, Pride Go. So that's a brand name for a specific type of scooter. So for example, Pride Go mobility scooter. This is a much higher intent keyword in an industry like this because the brand we work with resells these types of branded products, has a certificate to resell these branded products, and somebody typing in Pride Go, meaning the brand name along with the actual type of scooter they're looking for, is much more down the list in terms of what kind of product they want to buy, and is something we want to target in general. But when we combine this with a campaign mix that actually carries the brand forward, that's when we were really able to move the needle the most for this brand. Now, looking at just the enabled campaigns, because we did test a lot for this brand. We tested everything from having an all-in-one approach where we just had maybe 1 or 2 major smart bidding campaigns going after all of the products. We also tested standard shopping campaigns along the side. And what we came to realize is because of the high-ticket nature of this brand and because of the bold claims which often lead to policy violations, we had no other option but to kind of spread ourselves thin campaign and reduce the overall risk that was prevalent when we had only a few campaigns running at any given time. Because having 1 or 2 campaigns or maybe 3 campaigns running with a policy violation issue is much better than having only 1 campaign or only 2 campaigns which have all of our products and both of them have policy violations. This reduces the overall impact we can make with Google Ads, and it reduces the scale we can totally achieve. So the best approach we did was more of the best collections versus texting products based approach, along with a little bit of standard shopping on the side and a search campaign for branded traffic. So essentially all of these campaigns you see here right at the very top are top performing categories and top performers only, which is why if you look right here, overall they're driving most of the spend, but at the same time they're also very, very profitable for us. If we look at the overall conversion value per cost or even the ROAS column, which is much more accurate, we can see it's running at a 4.5x ROAS as well as a 3.8x ROAS. In addition to that, however, we're testing a bit more strategies on the side, and this is something most high-ticket brands can do as well, essentially running a catch-all campaign with a very high target ROAS, because since this is a high-ticket brand, it does require higher ROAS values in general. So this third campaign right here is something called a catch-all campaign, which is designed to just run at a very high setting in terms of target ROAS and capture all lost sales. These 2 campaigns right here are designed to go after a specific collection of products, ideally the ones that are getting the most searches and already have showed a lot of demand, which is why if we look right here, the overall ROAS is at a 2.5x or 1.7x, not the highest ROAS, but that's because that's leading us to the third testing we're doing on an overall top level approach. We're testing different bidding strategies. So if you look right here, these 2 top campaigns and the bottom 2 are running on something called target ROAS, where we have set it at a specific target ROAS value. So if we take a closer look at the actual settings and actual campaign approach, we can see this is running at a target ROAS of 360%, which was derived from actually what the campaigns are actually achieving and not just random numbers. But on the side, we're also testing a campaign approach which gives it freedom to go out into the market and identify actual buying intent keywords, go out into the market without any restrictions, which is why this is running on maximized conversion value with no target ROAS of any sort set. The goal of these 2 campaigns, and it's achieving this goal, is to go out into the market and find both new customers as well as retarget existing ones for newer keywords which we don't necessarily already know exist. This is sort of like our cold traffic campaign, where it's designed to go out into the market and find everything that works and also everything that doesn't work. Because combined with the other 2 approaches right here, the catch-all approach, which is running at a very high target ROAS, and this bottom one, which is running for all of the parts and accessories this brand sells, because this lays out into the 4th level and layer of the overall ecosystem, which I'll go over very shortly, which is LTV. But this plays extremely well with that 4th level. And finally, the other 3 at the very bottom, this is a branded search campaign, this is a performance max campaign, and along with a standard shopping campaign just running on the side. This gives us the right amount of security we need from all sides and angles to make all of the levels work here. Because the thing is, along with Google Ads, this brand is heavily reliant on meta ads traffic and organic traffic. The thing is with this brand, because it's high ticket, this changes everything about how we approach the Google Ads side and how we're trying to achieve profitable growth for this brand. Since it's high ticket in nature, there's going to be fewer conversions on a week-to-week level, and that means there's going to be longer consideration times. People naturally take days and even weeks to decide if they want a $17,000 electric wheelchair or if they don't want that. And combine that with the fact that meta ads lead to constant policy violations, constant disapprovals of their ad accounts, we have no choice but to treat Google as a retargeting platform along with a cold traffic ecosystem based approach. Because the organic traffic this brand gets going out onto Instagram, going out onto Twitter, and just posting a lot of YouTube videos, for example, posting a lot of Instagram videos to build authority in the market to get views, which then translate into sales on Google, is how we approach things and how we play into level number 3, which is retention. Now, for this brand, retention is key, specifically through social media. So as I mentioned, they're often on social media, going onto Instagram, for example, making videos around their specific products. So for example, if we just make a quick search for their main brand within this industry, and we can see the types of different Instagram videos that come up, somebody in the target market using that product, talking about that product, showcasing how it works versus how it doesn't. They also have a lot of Instagram related posts where it's somebody showcasing the product in use, showcasing how adjustable it is, so on and so forth. Basically a testimonial style video, but showcasing the product in action is what gets a lot of these views through the door. And doubling down on the retention is where they have email marketing in place, because what they're trying to do is with the back end and the emails, they're trying to find recurring purchases through accessories and through the different types of parts that you can sell within this industry. For example, if we go back to another example of, for example, in this situation, another wheelchair brand, Jazzy Wheelchair, essentially, we can see people search up for things like Jazzy Wheelchair batteries, Jazzy Wheelchair accessories, parts, so on and so forth. And this is where a lot of the upsells and downsells are made on the back end. And this is what leads to that high retention, because batteries, phone holders, bottle holders, part upgrades, etc., all are things this brand actually wants to sell, and this brand actually upsells in the back end, but also on the landing pages, as we see right over here. It really improves the retention and leads us to level number 4 of this entire ecosystem, which is the LTV unlock. Now, any brand in the medical industry or any brand that's in the gray area niche can find a lot of extra revenue from this, because the main goal for the brand we work with is not just to get sales from the front end, because yes, this is important. This is what gets the user through the door. Their main goal from the start was to sell custom built equipment for higher AOVs. So if we look right over here, we can see that this brand has the button customized. This is where a lot of the high AOV orders come through, and this is what our brand also wants to focus on, because the more custom a product is, the higher the AOV, and this directly increases the revenue per customer, which then ties into level number 3, which was all about retention. And for brands like this, maybe your brand cannot do this, but adding in a B2B factor, meaning also supplying specific types of products, specific types of branded products that to other suppliers, to a B2B audience, is where the average order value and the LTV unlock truly happens. And how, when we combine all of these 3 levels with the second level of Google Ads, is when scale is truly found. But with all of this being said, although this brand was in the gray area industry, brands in the medical are difficult to scale and achieve momentum for when it comes to Google Ads. Focusing on all 4 of these levels, from the foundations to the Google Ads layer to the retention along with LTV, can make consistent and profitable scale happen on a long-term basis. Because now if we look on a 60-day basis from yesterday up to today on a day-to-day basis, we can see that although there's ups and downs, we're starting to find a lot more traction. We're starting to have a lot bigger days where the ROAS can even be a 44x to cold traffic, because now the algorithm is able to gain more consistency. It's able to find more high LTV buyers, and as a result sell higher customizable products. But this data coming through the door on a consistent basis, it's what's allowing us to then keep that momentum up long term. But again, if you run a brand making $50,000 a month or more in revenue, you would rather get some help scaling your brand profitably and consistently with Google Ads, scan the QR code on the screen or click the first link in the description below to directly schedule a call with my team, and let's see how we can potentially work together to make it happen.